Because if this goes public, and you get a case like this that goes all the way to the Supreme Court, and they have to admit that the people aren't animals, well, they lose the war on drugs. They lose much of the police state. They lose the prison industrial complex. All right? And, of course, big pharmaceuticals are built on this.
By the way, Alfred, what you've said...
story.
Earlier I interrupted. Go back to the fact that us not being animals made in the image of a creator. People don't believe in that or not. The point is that's the law system. That's the precedent, is that we are made in the image of God. We are the sovereigns on this planet. And so the elite can't be above us. We have inalienable, basic, organic, galactic rights.
Well, that's exactly right. See, what people don't understand about sovereignty, the reason the King of France was sovereign was because he alone had the divine right of kings. He became king in a church ceremony. He got his rights directly from God.
Coronated.
All the rest were subjects because they did not get their rights directly from God. In our country, when it started out, it started with an incredible, a profound concept. They said, no, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men, not just the kings, the individual kings of England and France and Spain and so on, all men are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. With that statement, they made each of us an individual sovereign. It's borne out in Chisholm versus Georgia, 1793. Supreme Court of the United States declared this is to be a nation of sovereigns without subjects.
Well, this is the fight.
Rights from God. That makes the government our servant. If you and I are sovereigns, the government is our public servant. If you and I are animals, the government is our master.
And notice they don't use terms like public servant or peace officer. It's law enforcement. It's official. It's authority. This is just nothing but modern slavery, where they are above the law, they don't pay taxes, they do whatever they want and don't follow our original just laws, and then they make unjust laws for us. This is the essence of tyranny.
They say we have to obey their law, but they don't have to obey our law. And again, the hierarchy is God's law, number one, we the people, our law, number two, and that's the constitutions of the states and the federal government. And finally, we have the government's law. That's number three. They say we're always subject to that, but they don't want to be subject to the people's law. This is this is cause for a shooting revolution if they're not careful. If this goes badly, we're going to have an American Spring rather than an Arab Spring.
Alfred Adask, let's talk about that when we come back. Powerful. Now, continuing with Alfred Adask. Alfred, we are at a crossroads. The quickening's here. The system is trying to break our will. And we've seen police chiefs in New Jersey and Maryland say, in public statements, get out there, break their will, wear black masks, scare them. Fox News headline, police chief admits they want to scare us. The TSA, first take your shoes off, answer questions. Now we're going to squeeze your genitals on the outside. Now we're going to go inside. We're not going to change our gloves. I mean, they know that if they can get away with that, they're desperately trying to break our will and train us to basically be prisoners.
I agree. They're trying to, and that's exactly the point then, is you can't allow that to happen. The most important thing is you can't succumb to fear. They're trying to scare us, but here's the truth. The police are outnumbered about 300 to 1 in this country. It's only about 0.3% of the population that are police officers. Same thing with the military, about 0.3% of the population thereabouts. I mean, even if they brought all the military back and they combined them with all the police, they're still technically outnumbered by at least 100 to 1 on the basis of adults.
And what's happening is they're running around trying to get everybody to be spies for them. Spies, we're not hiding. We know who the crooks are, and the average cops that I talk to are waking up. The military's waking up.
Sure. And on one level, this is not an us against them, meaning us against the police. The police are standing on the breach on this thing, and they need to make up their mind, who do they serve and protect? They've got that motto, we serve and protect. But do they serve and protect the government, or do they serve and protect the people of the United States? They'd better understand that the government regards them as nothing but disposable, cattle.
Kissinger wrote a book and called our troops dumb animals.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And they will dispose of them fighting with us. The police really have a lot more in common with the people than they do with their employer. And certainly they can't afford to go to war with the people. You can't pick a war where you're outnumbered 100 to 1. You can't do that. You're not going to win this. And I don't care what kind of weapons you got, you can't do it. 100 to 1, bring your best weapon, we'll bring our bricks. You understand? Here comes 100 bricks coming at you.
Well, I've seen that with Vietnam, Afghanistan, anywhere. And the biggest contributors of the military in 2008 were the military to Ron Paul. And so But at the same time, the system does need to know they're in the wrong. We need to quit licking their boots and being afraid to call them out, because the police everywhere are violating the Bill of Rights and Constitution. They are enforcing stuff that isn't law.
I agree. And it's part of the reason why the object is not simply to go out and get yourself a firearm or a dozen firearms and a bunch of bullets. You have to understand the reasons for a rational application of force. You've got to pick up and understand the fundamentals out of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Say, wait a second, these are principles. We're not talking about just picking up a gun and shooting out the window. We're
Stay there.
About you
Stay
must
there.
have reason.
That's what Indiana just said. We can do whatever we want to you. You can't resist. Alfred Adask of adask.wordpress.com is our guest for another 5 minutes, and we have our surprise guest in studio with some very positive news. But going back to that Indiana ruling, because that's exactly where Alfred was going, they said in the case, if a cop has no reason at all to want to bust in your house without a warrant, they have a right to, and you can't even resist, because the guy reportedly pushed the cop, so they charged him with assaulting the cop. But that goes back to Magna Carta 1215. The man's home is his castle. It's our government. We create the state. We create the federal government. Then we elect judges. You have to go with evidence to them, where you're going, what you're going to search. You got to have a witness who people later have a right to confront, or the cops don't get the warrant. Now, you can't resist the warrant because it's a warrant of the people and the people's will. But the idea that they can just come and do whatever they want. Indiana also just ruled no-knock warrants for unpaid parking tickets. So it's all about terror and terrorizing. It's on. Alfred Adask, in summation.
You just mentioned a man's home is his castle. But animals don't have any homes, and they certainly don't have any castles. Insofar as the government presumes you to be an animal, insofar as their laws say that, you're just livestock on the global plantation, and they can handle you like a chicken in a Tyson poultry processing plant, and clip your little beak off and keep you jammed in with the rest of the chickens. When it's time to harvest, they'll harvest you. If you're an animal,
and they say in all their writings, if you let them do it, you are an animal.
Yeah, that's what it is. I understand. I don't know how much time we have left, but where this goes is if you go to a business, there's a place called genocidewatch.org, and they have a document up there that's entitled 8 Stages of Genocide. And the third stage in genocide, to commit genocide, it's not necessary that you kill anyone. It's only necessary under the genocide law that you create circumstances where a particular group or race or whatever is more likely to die. And the third stage in the genocide law is dehumanization. And they specifically say when they reduce people to the status of animals, insect, or vermin, it's an act of genocide. For example, when the Hutus decide to kill all the Tutsis, the first thing they do is say the Tutsis are all a bunch of animals. And when they're animals, you can kill them all. You can kill the women. You can kill the children. You can kill the non-combatants. You can exterminate them like a nest of wasps because they are animals.
That's what the Nazis said. If you go back to the Israelites.
Untermenschen.
The Israelites 3,000 years ago went into areas and said, these people are animals.
Our government, by that definition, you apply the facts of the drug laws, the medical device laws. This goes back as far as 1906, and I'm able to find in the Food and Drug Act of 1906, that's where this started out. They presume the people to be animals. You apply those facts to the law of genocide, and you conclude that the government of the United States right now is committing genocide against the American people. Technically, they are guilty of genocide. To me, that's a pretty big story. And there's evidence. I mean, if you can lay this out and show people, here's what we got. You make up your mind. Don't believe me. I'll show you the law. You make up your mind.
Well, you know, Alfred Adask, I've always known this and briefly talked about it here and there, but the way you codify it is so powerful. And as you're speaking, I think of thousands of examples of where this is in universal law through every culture. The priest class of the Aztecs, when they were chopping people's hearts out, said that these are animals, we're gods. It's more than that. Not just we're men, you're animals. We're gods, you're animals. And this is the New World Order religion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is powerful stuff. It's not just a curiosity. It goes to something that is fundamental that's been going on for thousands of years. Are you animals, or are you men and women made in God's image?
Are we men or mice?
That's exactly what it comes down to. If you're mice, you can be slaughtered, and there's no reason why you shouldn't be.
Well, I'm not a slave. We're not your slaves, as I've always said. And they're trying to train us to be slaves and turn us into gibbering idiots hooked into all their propaganda. Incredible interview, Alfred Adask. We're going to let you go. That we will interview you very soon, my friend. And be safe. I know why they're so scared of you and have 60 Minutes coming after you and others. You are definitely a force to be reckoned with. I salute you. We'll be right back. Thank you, sir.